Hello, poetry lovers. The video tonight shows the creation of a new piece titled Lazarus. Stick around to see the completed poem at the end of the video. This is the first video I've ever posted that I feel needs to come with a trigger warning. The poem in this video includes a somewhat detailed description of a miscarriage. People who are grieving a miscarriage may find it distressing, but on the other hand, you may find it helpful. It certainly helped me to write it. This poem is part of the series Barren Woman, which is a series I'm writing that explores firsthand the experience of infertility. Many of the poems are more about the emotional experience, but a few, like this one, are about the physical reality of infertility and pregnancy loss. This series is written from a perspective of struggling with faith through that journey, and this poem is no exception. I wrote it just a few weeks after experiencing my fourth miscarriage, in which I lost 2 babies, and which summoned back all the emotions of my third miscarriage, which was the furthest along in my pregnancy. In the middle of that profound grief, I was struck by Jesus' words in chapter 11 of the Gospel of John, which records his response to the death of his friend, Lazarus. I felt that exploring this interaction would help me put words on some of what I was experiencing, so I began the poem with an allusion to that passage. So here, the beginning of the poem alludes to Jesus' interaction with Martha, which is a conversation that includes some of the most famous and most hopeful language in the Christian faith. After beginning the poem with the allusion, I wanted to turn from the reference to this other work to the specific situation of this poem. This is important when making an allusion. It's crucial to include enough wording to make the allusion clear, but to still allow the poem's new content and perspective to have the primary focus. In other words, an allusion should supplement, not supersede, the point you're making. So in the middle part of the poem, I turn to a detailed, concrete description of the events that prompted this poem. This was difficult to write. It seems like it's still very culturally taboo to talk in any detail about the experience of infertility or miscarriage, but this is such a common struggle for so many people. It's important to begin to put words on our experience so that it can become less hidden and hopefully no longer a source of shame for some people. I didn't want to give in to shame and shrink from writing about the moment that I was reliving. So as always, when writing about subjects that are very emotionally charged, I avoided as much as possible using emotional words. In a poem that vividly describes a profound loss, there's no need to use words like grief or sorrow, and such words would honestly fall far short of the actual emotional experience. I found that it's better to simply describe the events in detail and allow the reader to feel secondhand the emotions that are produced. The one exception, and it's not a real exception, is the moments in this poem when I make references to items that have very emotionally charged connections. Toward the end of this section, I've referenced tombs and grave cloths. These elements are used as figurative images that help add even more emotional weight to this section, so I'm amping up the depth of feeling as I approach the end. These images still don't use actual emotion words, but they are words that carry connections to grief and mourning. So I limited myself to using only 2, and I made sure to ground them in the sensory details of the experience. At the very end of the poem, I return to the allusion at the beginning, but now shift to allude to Jesus' interaction with Lazarus' second sister, Mary. These biblical passages are fascinating because both sisters approach Jesus with the same words, but they very clearly have different significance, and they receive different reactions. So I used line breaks to draw some attention to the difference between these interactions, writing lines that were almost identical to the lines I used at the beginning, but that contain a complete caesura rather than enjambment at the end of the line. Caesura refers to a grammatical stop, such as a period, whereas enjambment refers to the continuation of a sentence from one poetic line to the next. So the different line endings here were my attempt to subtly highlight the shift in the allusion. Honestly, this poem was hard to write, and it's hard to share. But it's an important part of the Barren Woman series, and much more than that. My hope is that this will shed light on one experience of pregnancy loss and give voice to part of this experience. So here it is, the first draft of Lazarus, written in about 14 minutes on October 5th, 2022. Lazarus. When the bleeding starts, I pray as Martha, Lord, if you'd been here, my child would not have died. Yet now, blood flows stronger, thicker, my body scouring the womb that dared to try hold a child. And like a woman in labor, I cry out, I gasp, I pant, contractions crushing the fragile tissues until they can slide through my dilated cervix. We knew it was coming. The silent ultrasound screen told true, but your name is resurrection, is life. I believe. But when the labor pains reach their end, when I hold, wide as my palm, the bloody remnants of my 12-week child, when I wrap the mass in long strips of paper roll for grave cloths, and I commit the body to the trash, lacking a grave, I pray as Mary, Lord, if you'd been here, my child would not have died. I hear, I accept. No answer but tears. Thanks for watching this episode of Ars Poeticat. If you enjoyed watching poetry happen, please like and subscribe. Then go make some art.